Hello everyone and welcome back to the show, back with another episode of Exploder just for you. 2 weeks ago, of course, was Wrestlemania. The reason I didn't get an episode out the next day is because I usually put out episodes on Monday, and the fact that I spent all night and most of my day and probably part of Saturday, and it all blurred together. But I watched a lot of Wrestlemania, Ronda wrestling that weekend, and getting the episode out on Monday just wasn't going to do it. So I'm back with a week off. These things happen occasionally. I'm going to go over WrestleMania just a little bit and talk about what happened. By now, you know what happened. By now, you probably watched it either on the network or live, or you've watched Raw and SmackDown and you got a good idea what's going on. I got off work and I didn't catch the women's Rumble or women's Battle Royale or whatever the hell. I know Lana won it, so I can't comment on how good it was or not. Don't know. The first match I saw was the Revival versus the Major Brothers Redux. The Edgeheads Part 2, whatever you want to call them. It was an okay match. I love the Revival, I'm a big fan, but seeing Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, win a match now and again, pretty neat to see, and, it was a good feel-good moment, something for the pre-show, whatever. The Andre the Giant Battle Royal took place again this year, this time in the pre-show because it doesn't matter. There was a lot of, hey, they still work here types, a lot of those. And for the record, I'm just gonna ask this, what the hell happened to No Way Jose's hair? Like, I understood the little fro that he had, and then I don't know what the hell he was wearing at WrestleMania. It was green, it was like a bright green, it was braided, like if Bo Derek fell into the Toxic Avenger ooze. I don't know what's going on there. Hardy Boys intro took forever. They played the intro music and then they went to the panel and they're just talking, and in the background you're hearing the Hardy Boys music looping, so you got to hear the whole song because that's the WrestleMania experience you want to hear. The SNL guys, Colin Jost and Michael Che, took a nap under the ring, which is actually a great method because they're not going to get anything in there, they're not going to do anything. I mean, the only guy they could really take out would be like Bo Dallas, probably. I mean, at this point, who couldn't? Braun Strowman is in the WrestleMania hole one more time. It's a kind of guy that he's so good and he's so talented, he's been booked like as a monster for so long, and then when it comes to WrestleMania they just like forget. They're like, oh crap, he's on the roster, oh crap, what do we do? They don't know what to do, so they put him in some nothing match. Like, remember last year they did the thing where he won the tag belts with a 10-year-old from the crowd, and then this year they put him in the Andre the Giant cluster, and his whole gimmick was it was against the SNL guys, and it ended exactly how you expected it to, where he chucked one of them at the other ones, and that's about it. I hope next year at WrestleMania they do it differently. I hope they, book him a little better so he actually has a legitimate match, not just another throwaway. But being as WWE, they're probably going to do something next year with him and Shaq out of nowhere. I don't know what they're going to do. They'll do something stupid. Who knows? The reality is the Andre the Giant Battle Royale, it was a good idea, but they've proven over the time it just doesn't mean anything. The fact that it's on the pre-show tells you all you need to know. And I always say, oh, well, the pre-show is part of WrestleMania. No, listen, WrestleMania is 8 hours long, but the reality is if you're doing 2 Battle Royals on the pre-show, that's just a WrestleMania paycheck. They're just there to get the money, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said before, it's good to be getting your WrestleMania money. I don't begrudge them at all, but as far as important, it's not important. Braun Strowman won this year. Of course he did. Everyone else was like Curtis Axel, Bo Dallas, No Way Jose, Bobby Roode, and Chad Gable for no real reason. It was just a bunch of people that they put on there to get a check. And I mean, was there anyone else? I think they could have thrown a curveball there and had Luke Harper win it, but the thing was they didn't make a big deal of Luke Harper being in it. Luke Harper was just in the ring all of a sudden. Luke Harper's in the ring, and that happened. And it just, the only guy you could logically see winning it is Braun Strowman, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. What do you get? You get a trophy. Wow, you get a trophy. Shane McMahon got a trophy for being the best in the world in Saudi Arabia. So, trophies matter. Now we go to the announcers. Tom Phillips looks expected. Corey Graves looks like he's wearing a satin couch. And Byron Saxton mugged a 1970s pimp. If you don't believe me, go back and watch that and tell me I'm wrong on any of those. We start the show out with Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins, because why the hell not? It actually had a lot of drama. It had real drama. Brock just being a bully, just chucking him around, and Seth Rollins gets the win. Again, this is a natural progression. It's the same thing you saw Triple H back in 1999. This progression from being the DX guy to being part of the corporation to being a guy who eventually challenged for the world title, then won the world title. There's a natural progression. And I know Seth Rollins held the belt before, but this is like a first time as a babyface, so it's the natural progression. The fact that he won's good, and of course Brock Lesnar does his his yearly thing where he goes away and wrestles slightly less than he already normally does. And I don't know, strangles and moves with the bare hands, whatever he does when he's home. And he goes and teases that he's going to go to MMA. And then WWE offers him a buttload more money. And then he comes back and then he does like 87 suplexes, lather, rinse, repeat. So we're in that cycle of the year. So here we are again. Randy Orton versus AJ Styles was a match. Jerry Lawler got a lot of one-liners in, so that was good. Other than that, it was there. Miz versus Shane McMahon, where the Miz was the babyface, Shane was the heel, because, Shane McMahon still can't throw a punch to save his life. To this day, cannot throw a punch to save his life. The match itself was all right. It was a good brawl, going around and doing their thing, and Miz's dad got in the ring, which is still, honestly, that knuckle up. Like, he looked like if the mascot from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish had Bell's palsy. Like, that's the only way I can explain it. Like, he's up there, but you're like, oh, that guy's a drug problem or some kind of disorder we don't know about. I don't know. But Shane McMahon won after a suplex off the platform, and he happened to land on Biz. So again, I advanced the story, but four-way for the SmackDown tag titles. The Usos beat The Bar, Nakamura and Rusev. Nakamura, of course, wearing his best MVP outfit. Again, look at the outfit, tell me I'm wrong. And Ricochet and Aleister Black. Not a bad match. The Usos win because of course they do. And of course, then the next Tuesday they lose them to the Hardys, because at this point it doesn't matter. WrestleMania at this point, in some cases, is almost like a setup for the Raw and SmackDown after. So we live in Bizarro world. Instead of setting up for WrestleMania, honestly, they're usually setting up for the Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania, because those are special, because the fans usually chant things that don't matter the rest of the year. But it's a thing now, so, remember Fandango? Yeah, of course you don't. This match became more of a story because of what happened after than what the match was itself. The Boss and Hug connection of Sasha Banks and Bayley defended the women's tag titles against the Iconics. The Divas of Doom, of course, is Natalya and Beth Phoenix, and Tamina and Nia Jax. Nia Jax is out now with two bad knees. She's going to be out for a while. The Iconics win, which was good. It was a good WrestleMania moment. I know they're heels, but it was a good WrestleMania moment to see two NXT women come up and get that chance. But the real story out of this is Bayley, and to a lesser extent Bayley, but the really big one right now is Sasha Banks, pouting, crying, moaning, whatever, about losing the tag titles because they're not important, blah, blah, blah. You understand that the world title, really no titles anymore. Hogan held a title for 3 years. Bret Hart would hold a title for a year. Guys would hold titles for a now. You're lucky if you hold titles for 2 months these days. Oh, you didn't get a long reign with the women's tag titles. Yeah, the women's titles don't get a long reign. Asuka lost a belt right before WrestleMania just so that Charlotte could have a belt walking into it. Now they consolidated the belts. And you're worried about the long reign of your tag team titles? You're the first champions. Whoop-de-doo. So Sasha Banks is sort of, again, I'm not there, but the way it comes off to me is sort of her throwing a tantrum. Oh, I want to quit. I don't know. If you do, you do. You don't, you don't. But this idea that they were promised a long title reign, no one's promised jack. That's the business. Anyone who says in this business they were promised anything, bull. If you're promised, they're lying to you, or you think there was a promise where there wasn't one. A promise of anything? Screw you. Shut up. Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan for the Starbucks Championship. Great match, great story. Kofi Kingston wins the belt. He's no longer the also-ran. He's no longer the guy that couldn't make it because Randy Orton had a temper tantrum 12 years ago. He's no longer that guy. He won the belt. They celebrate with the New Day, and his kids are out there, and it's really great. It's a good feel-good story. And again, this is the second one. This is the second one where the babyface overcomes and beats the dastardly heel, and it's a good story. Again, booking now is what do you do after? And of course, now that we're past this, the next night he comes out and he has a match with Seth Rollins, supposedly winner take all, but of course they're not going to give you a finish and all that. They set up the 6-man, blah, 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 on SmackDown and all that. But he's a good babyface champion. Again, what they do with him now, that remains to be seen. So we'll see how that goes. I'm just glad that their title belt, they went back to the old title belt. So I'm just glad that the title belt no longer looks like it was made in a craft show. So that's good. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. I knew this was going to be a good match. It's a good way to build Roman Reigns as a legitimate babyface, not shoving him down anyone's throat. He wasn't in the main event again with Brock Lesnar for the 15th time. He wasn't made to look really strong. He just had a really good match, and it's a good way. Like I said, he already has that sort of that cachet, if you want to say. I mean, that might be a fancy word, but he has that little bit of goodwill toward him. So just to go on this and keep going with it, and that's awesome. So again, no complaints here. Elias comes out, and he promises he's going to play a song that's going to be used for WrestleManias for years to come. And of course, he plays with the only other two people that will play with him for more than 10 seconds, himself. And he's on the screen as both playing the piano and the whatever, and he's playing the guitar. And then he promises this new song that's going to be used at WrestleMania forever. And he's interrupted by John Cena, who jumped into a time machine and is now temporarily back as the guy who was there before all the booze, the Doctor of Thugonomics, who comes out in his good 2006 gear with the word life knuckles, and he raps and he destroys Elias. And it was a good segment. It was a good pop. He didn't need to have a match. Elias didn't need a match. It was just a good segment to have. And of course, Elias the next night on Raw would have a little run-in with The Undertaker. Again, it's a way to get a guy over without having to put him in the ring. So again, that's, can't complain there. Batista versus Triple H, the 50-year-old man versus the 49-year-old man. They did stuff with pliers where Triple H supposedly ripped out Batista's stupid looking nose ring. By the way, you're 50. You shouldn't have a nose ring. I think I don't even care if you were in an office, you're a bouncer. If you're in I don't care what profession you're in. If you're 50 years old and have a nose ring, you deserve to have it ripped out. That's just my opinion. The match itself was all right. Both guys are sort of suck at wind, especially Batista. I also noticed that Batista, if you looked at him, I think every year he's away from the business, he just gets another crappy tattoo. Because remember the tattoo he had on his arm and the little Godsmack sun or whatever the hell it was around his belly button, which was sort of weird, and the dragon thing on his back. And then he just filled in the arm, and he got some weird splotchy looking koi fish thing. I don't know what the hell that was on his stomach. He's wearing that now. I don't know what that's about. And he just has these new tattoos. They just look weird. Like, it's fine if you want to get all the tattoos you want, man, but they just look weird. I just thought he looked weird. 50-year-old man. Good shape for a 50-year-old, absolutely, but the match was what it was. It was better than I thought it'd be. I thought they'd be sucking wind a lot more than they were. And then, of course, there is the main event. The main event, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. This one had the potential. I'll be honest with you. I've said it on previous podcasts. I can't remember which ones I've said, but I've said I didn't think women would ever main event WrestleMania. Never did. Because up until this point, there was never an angle in a women's division. There was never an angle that, to me, ever measured up against what was going on in the male division, especially at WrestleMania. I think probably the worst angle going into WrestleMania, if I had to guess, would probably be WrestleMania 13 between Sid and Undertaker, only because, going into February, Shawn Michaels was champion, and Shawn Michaels had just beat Sid to win the belt back at the Royal Rumble. And then Shawn Michaels' knee and or smile go away, and he drops the belt, and there's this whole cluster, and the belt ends up on Sid, and then Sid goes against the Undertaker. It was sort of this thrown together. So I think angle-wise, that was probably the least important angle going into a WrestleMania. But honestly, even that year, I can't remember. I think there was a women's match that year, but it didn't have a good angle. If it didn't have a good angle behind it. You know what I mean? So the idea that a women's angle, nothing against women, I just didn't think they ever wrote women's angles as important or as consistent as they did the male angles. This year's wrong. I was wrong. I will 100% admit I was wrong. This year, the angle with Charlotte, Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, and to a lesser extent Charlotte, was stronger than the other stuff. I think Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan was close. I think the angle between Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins, it's like any other angle you're going to do with Brock Lesnar. It's pretty set, dry. He's a big guy who shows up once every 30 days. You're a small guy who wants the title. That's the angle. And Paul Heyman's in there to yell and this time not bounce checks. And that's about it. That's the angle. That's the angle for all of them. But Kofi and Daniel Bryan had a really great angle going into it. But the women's angle, and make no mistakes, the reason this was the main event was because, let's call it what it is, it's Ronda Rousey. If it wasn't Ronda Rousey, facts are what they are. If it was just Charlotte and Becky, they'd be maybe the semi-main, maybe 2 or 3 down from the main, but they wouldn't be the main. That's just the way it is. It's the main event because it was Ronda Rousey, because she's that mainstream name, and that's the reality of it. But for what it was, good match. I understood the idea of putting Charlotte in. I felt like they sort of shoehorned her in there, but that means you had 2 workers and one who was over as a heel, but not necessarily great as a worker in Ronda Rousey. So you could sort of work around that. So that was smart. But the finish, what the hell was the finish? I have no idea what the finish was. I don't get it. And right after it happened, again, this is another story that right after it happened, there's the thing about it was the original plan was for her to beat Charlotte, was for Becky to beat Charlotte by submission, and then it was no, she's supposed to beat Ronda by pin but not submission because they can't have Ronda tap out. And then it was like, well, there was supposed to be a pin but then there wasn't, and this whole thing, it became this whole cluster of a story about what exactly was supposed to happen, what wasn't. Then we're hearing that the referee got fined, but that doesn't, to me, it was like, okay, but they tell the refs to do things as if they were real. And the reality was, okay, maybe the first one, maybe the one, but on the 2 and the 3, her shoulders were down. Look at the tape. On the 1, it was a little awkward, but at 2 and 3, Ronda Rousey's shoulders were down. So you can say what you want, but 1 was up, yeah, maybe, but once he's hit 1, okay. 2, if that's not the finish, that's not supposed to be the finish, put your shoulder up. Don't let him hit 3. You know, it can be awkward, but you can do awkward. It's like Barely Legal. ECW's first pay-per-view. There was supposed to be a sequence where Terry Funk's supposed to pin Raven. And Raven's talked about this, and he did it, and he messed, I don't know what happened, they messed it up. So, they get back into it, they do it again. This time it works. Now, there was a hiccup there, but they still got the pin, the cradle. They go to the cradle, they still got the pinfall, they still got the celebration. They got it in, even if that little awkwardness before that, you know, people don't know what it's supposed to be. And if you watch that, if you didn't know that, you never know the difference. So this was awkward, but it was like sort of a not, but to me, it just came out of nowhere. It should have been more definitive. If you're going to put Becky on as this person, and they should have, the right person won, absolutely. But it has to be definitive. It's like if, to me, it'd be like if Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 14, and it's almost exactly like all night you're expecting this stunner. You're expecting Austin to hit the stunner on Michaels, boom, 1, 2, 3, the place erupts. It would be like if you're waiting for this stunner and Shawn Michaels goes for the super kick and Steve Austin ducks and rolls him up. You're still going to get a 3 count, but you're not going to get that definitive pop because people are like, oh, well, you rolled him up. What? And that's what this was. It was like there was this build, and instead of the definitive pinfall, it was like a screw up. And you're like, oh. And they went off the air like a minute later. They were just like, all right, celebrate, boom, they're out. So it was almost a very, not quite, but almost Hulk Hogan, Sting, Starrcade 97 type. Like there's a build, like there's going to be this finish, and then the finish just lets you down. So, and now they're putting Becky against Lacey Evans, and I'm going to defer to the WWE on this one, because maybe they know more about it than I do. To me, Lacey Evans she's like another Dana Brooke. Good look, the bodybuilder type, but as a character, I don't know. But, you know, again, it's after you win the belt, what do you do with them? So let's, you know, what you do with them, I hope they do well with it. I hope, because Becky has potential to be a big star. Probably one of the biggest female stars since someone like Trish Stratus. But it's just a matter of whether they're going to give her that or they're going to try and spread the wealth and use this to put over someone like Lacey Evans, who, nothing against her, but if you're going to build a division, if you're going to build things around the man, you got to give her some wins, you know. And if that means beating Lacey Evans, if that means beating Charlotte again, if that means beating Naomi or Carmella or whoever the hell, you got to do that, you know. So I hope they do. That's my review of WrestleMania this year. Again, I talked about it a little more than I thought I would, honestly. I think most people have seen it. If you're listening to this, you probably saw it. You're probably a wrestling fan. If you're a wrestling fan, listen, if you're listening to this and you're not a wrestling fan, first of all, what are you doing with your life? Second of all, go watch it. It was my biggest criticism of... Oh, and by the way, just a heads up, Samoa Joe made Rey Mysterio pass out in 2 minutes. So that was a match. Yeah, that was the kind of match I forgot that it happened. So that's how important that one was. The rumor that Rey's hurt, but then again, the question is, well, then why'd you still have the match? But whatever. So that's how important that match was. My issue with WrestleMania this year was, with the exception of 2 matches, every babyface won. Every babyface. If you go back and look at that, except 2 matches, every babyface won. So it was a night where everything was special, so it sort of made nothing special. If that makes any sense. Like, when you have a night of, okay, Seth Rollins wins. Okay, cool, great. Ryder and Hawkins win. Okay, Kofi wins. Okay, Becky wins. You know, you had all these guys who are like, okay, great, boom, 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 boom. But it's like, if every babyface wins, then it's like everybody got their night. Then to me, it's like, well, it's not special because everybody won. Everything was special and everything was big and everyone won their match. And then it was sort of like where everything was so special that nothing was special because it didn't matter. Because if Kofi did win, but if Kofi didn't win, well, Seth Rollins still won, Becky still won, Ryder and Hawkins still won. To me, it was just sort of it was so babyface heavy. I don't think it advanced anything. It just sort of like get your little pop and then, ta-da. And then I'm like, oh yeah, Shane won accidentally, I guess. But that's my opinion. Again, take it for what it's worth. Don't rank me up there with the Wade Kellers and the Dave Meltzers of the world. I would love their longevity. I'd love to have their kind of career, but I'm not going to sit here and give them star ratings because I think those are subjective, clearly. There are matches I like that they probably hate and matches they love that I think are the most boring things in the world, and vice versa. So I think star ratings are stupid. So I'm not going to do star ratings or anything like that. That's just my opinion. WrestleMania this year was sort of, I don't know how to explain it. It was just sort of there. It was just sort of, it existed. And I'm not saying it was bad. I mean, there were some good things that happened there, but to me, it just, I don't know why, but to me, it didn't have that feel. And recent WrestleManias haven't. I'm not saying it's just like, oh, all of them. No, this one this year was just, maybe it was because it was 8 hours long. Maybe it's because it started on Friday and will finish sometimes after this episode is published. It feels like it goes forever. I came in on the Raw tag title match and I didn't watch the whole pre-show. And I stayed all the way through the finish in the women's match. It's 8 hours or whatever. It was just ridiculous. It's so long. And people said, well, this WrestleMania, listen, they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep making it longer. They're going to keep adding more matches. They're going to have more battle royals and 8-man tags and junkyard battle royals and, whatever. Dog collars, super ladder matches, or whatever the hell they're going to do. But they're going to do it, and they're going to have a lot of them. So saying, well, why don't they make it this, or why don't they make it shorter? It doesn't matter. What you have to do is sort of figure out what you want to do and watch what you want to watch. If you don't want to watch 8 hours, join up at 8 o'clock. You're not going to miss a whole lot. Forget the pre-show, forget the first hour, watch whatever you want. That's sort of, go with your tolerance. I'll admit it was daunting this year. I liked it, but it was daunting just because you had to go with, we had it where the semi-main, another match you forget about because it really didn't matter, was Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley. Finn Balor came as a demon, which you knew about weeks ahead of time. Finn Balor wins, which Stevie Wonder could have saw coming, and that was the thing, and I had to go, literally I say that because when that match came up, I was like, me and Jake Hill, comedian Jake Hill, good friend of mine, we do Hillbilly Therapy together. Keep on the lookout for that, by the way. That's coming back with a new video format. We're gonna do some really cool stuff with it. But I'm watching with Jake Hill, and he, we're trying to go through what's next, and we're like, oh, well, this match is Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, whatever, and then Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin, which was sort of disappointing. Yeah, I liked the fact that it was Kurt Angle, but it was Baron Corbin. So, and Baron Corbin won, and that's fine, and you'll lose on the way out. I get that, but the match itself sort of fell dud. It wasn't really that big epic match. Again, everything was so big and epic that even stuff that should have been epic wasn't. It was like, he's out. Oh, he lost. All right, next thing. That's pretty much how it felt, and it's unfortunate because I think Kurt Angle deserved a better go home, a better, retirement match than that. Not necessarily against Baron Corbin, but it's nothing to say against Baron Corbin. Just it should have been a bigger deal about it being his last match, but wasn't. So meh. But we're watching. We were going through what matches were next, and we totally forgot about Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, that's still there, And then the main event finish sort of messed with us. We're like, whoa, it was sort of a letdown. Honestly, it was sort of a letdown. And again, you can recover and you can do stuff with it, but the finish itself was sort of like, it caught you off guard, and I'm not saying in a good way either. So, that's my assessment of things. So that's going to do it for this time. This has been Exploder. This has sort of been my recap of WrestleMania. I didn't think I was going to go this long. I'm going well over 20 minutes. I wasn't expecting to do that, but things happen. Just a heads up, because you don't know, if you are anywhere remotely local, I live in a town called Lima, Ohio, and I do stand-up comedy. I've been doing stand-up comedy for 6 years now. We just got done with Record Store Day. ZTO, a group I work for called Zombie Takeover TV, the guys who publish this, the guys who produce this podcast. We're on their Podbean page, their Bandcamp page, iTunes, Facebook, name it, we're on it. I work for ZTO, is what we call it. ZTO, we just got done doing Record Store Day. We brought the Gromy Show back. There's a lot of stuff on there, so go to Zombie Takeover TV, look it up on Facebook, check out what they're doing. Gromy Show is a really cool thing. I get to go in there and give away like bad prizes for easy trivia, and they do live music, live comedy. It's a lot of fun stuff. There's always a lot of footage coming out of there. They have podcasts. The Hillbilly Therapy is making a return. ZTO Radio. This last Roundup Horror Show, which is about horror movies and stuff like that. Schlockfest, which is sort of like the B movies. There are so many podcasts as part of the network that I'm on, and I want you to check them out, give them a shot. I have a new show coming to Gromie's this next Saturday, April 20th, completely coincidental. It is called Broken Mike, the beginning of the end. We're going to start doing new stuff there. This show is going to be a little different from what we're going to do, but long term we have some plans for the show. But we're going to do this show. It's going to be awesome. So again, if you happen to be somewhere local and you want to check it out, come on out. If you want to see, if you're not local, which I imagine a lot of people aren't, check out Zombie Takeover TV. Check out the Exploder page if you're not already on it. Check out everything. If you have any suggestions, ideas, questions, death threats, want to tell me I'm wrong about this, that, the other, Exploder Pod on Twitter, or just put send a message to the page. I'll respond to it. I'll probably put it on an episode. Who knows? We'll see. Until next time, my name's Dan. This is Exploder. Have a good one.